Hello and welcome to episode 8 of the NASCAR Extreme Wreckfest Series Championship here in Season 1. If you've missed the last video, feel free to click on the card in the top right corner of the screen right about now to get caught up. And if bizarrely enough you've managed to find this video without having watched any of the previous episodes before it, feel free to check out the description down below for a link to episode 1 so you can get all caught up from the beginning. This week we're headed to the Tribend Speedway, the smaller of the two triangular shaped tracks that we've gone to this season. And because the track has 3 different layouts, we will be doing a few races on each of the main, reversed, and wild layout to keep things interesting. So we're going to kick off race 1 here on the outside line. You're going to notice that actually we're going to make it through this first turn pretty cleanly. But one thing you should keep in mind is the AI do like to favor coming up the hill as the turn goes on. So it can be kind of risky and you can be at risk of being pushed into the wall if you get too comfortable. Coming out of turn 3 for the first time, you are going to notice that both Ryan Newman and Eric Almirola both decided to take a big chunk out of this little concrete divider that's on the side of the wall. You're actually going to notice that's a big theme of today's episode. Those concrete dividers can really kind of reach out and grab you if you're not careful. Case and point. So yeah, don't do that, as we can see that Brad Keselowski picks up the first win of the event as we get rammed in the rear by William Byron and a few other drivers trying to hastily pick up whatever few positions they can right here at the end of the race. Race 2, I did say that the AI liked moving up to the outside, as I'm going to make the slightest amount of contact possible with this outside concrete barrier before flipping into a somersault, only to be rear-ended by Clint Boyer. And now the left rear of my car is about 4.5 feet higher than it probably should be. Last lap, coming onto the backstretch, I'm going to slightly clip the concrete barrier yet again, and I'm going to slide on my passenger side door for about 50 feet before pulling a Casper the Friendly Ghost once again, and losing basically all the ground that I'd made up since the earlier incident. Skipping ahead to the 4th race, because the 3rd race was actually pretty uneventful, you're going to notice that the very first corner here is much sharper than it was when you go the other way, which means you're going to be forced to the outside more easily, and in this case, into the concrete barrier once again for about the millionth time so far in this event. And just like that, we're fighting to stay out of last place with Eric Almirola. I struggled to really make up much ground after that outside of this attempted assassination attempt from William Byron on Eric Almirola. But heading off into the first corner for the final time, you're going to see that I'm going to hit the remnants of that barrier I hit earlier, which sends me into an alligator death roll before I finally come to a stop, basically in last place outside of William Byron, who actually died as a result of his contact with Eric Almirola. The next race was once again relatively uneventful outside of this battle we had on the fast lap between myself, Kyle Busch, Joey Logano, Kevin Harvick, and Martin Truex Jr., so quite a gaggle to be seen as Joey Logano actually got flung off into the distance there by Kevin Harvick. Truex kind of just showed up here at the end of the race because, you know, he wanted to mention about all of his controversies that are so often mentioned on the NBC broadcast. And then Kurt Busch is going to bring home the win, followed by his brother. That's probably the 5th or 6th time that's actually happened so far this season between the two of them. Moving on to the next race using the hot shot this time, you can see that this is actually the first race we have started on the inside line, so we won't be forced into the outside wall like we have been in so many of the races so far, so we're actually going to get off into the top 5 relatively early. A bit later, we're going to see Ryan go head on into the outside guardrail before bouncing into the concrete barrier, probably ending his day in the process. And we're eventually going to bring ourselves home for a 4th place finish, one of the few good finishes we have managed to actually have so far in this event. Moving on to the first of 4 races that'll be taken on the wild circuit of this track, so the one with the jumps and the chicane. We're actually going to start off on the outside and get a really good start. As you see, we're actually going to make it through there pretty cleanly before Clint Boyer smashes into the wall, taking out, I believe, Denny Hamlin with the process. And just like that, we're actually in 2nd place, but unfortunately I'm going to cut this corner a bit too sharp and quickly discover that, of course, the yellow and green concrete barriers are apparently indestructible. I don't know, maybe those ones are just made out of a completely different material than the red ones. But just like that, I am basically dead. I only have 10 health remaining, and in an attempt to actually try and make up as much ground as I can, I then snag the red one, and well, just like that, our race is over, and I am dead. Welcome to the wild circuit. Coming around once again, we're going to give that another shot with the exact same vehicle this time. I thought maybe it was a fluke that we just kind of crashed out immediately last time, so we're going to get, once again, another really good start here on the outside. This time it's going to be a little bit cleaner for us, as we're actually going to slalom in between Ryan Newman and William Byron. Sometimes, you know, you just have to get lucky. But then we immediately smash into the wall. But this time we're not going to die, so we have that going for us. We do find ourselves down here, struggling to stay inside the top 10, but at least we're not dead. And we can try and progress from that as I almost take out myself again, once again, on the yellow and green barriers, because I've very clearly not learned my lesson from the first time. Coming on in the backstretch for the final time in this race, you're going to see Joey Logano do a pirouette into the sky as we're going to narrowly avoid Eric Jones by the slimmest of margins. And because of that, we're actually going to manage to bring home a 3rd place finish, so our best one so far. So for this race, I decided to bring up the big guns because, you know, I kind of figured if all of the other cars were going to bully me around into these concrete barriers and whatnot, I would probably do a lot better if I had a much bigger car, so they couldn't really do that. And just like that, we're actually going to get off to an insane start the very first half of the lap, and we're going to battle Ryan Blaney, sending him off to the side, so we're going to take the lead. From that point on, we actually managed to keep it relatively clean and pull away from the field a little bit by the end, so just like that, we're going to go from struggling really poorly 2 races ago to getting a top 3 finish, and just like that, we've now won our first race of this event, and the first race in quite a while, actually. Moving on to the 10th and final race, this time with the boomer, you can see that right away everybody's getting their elbows out, and myself, Joey Logano, and Kurt Busch are actually going to make contact while airborne coming off that jump, and then Alex Bowman's going to come say hi, slam us into the wall, making us a sandwich with the outside wall and his car, and then we're going to smack this red concrete wall, you know, because it's been more than 20 seconds since we last touched that thing. A little bit later, going through turn 1, Clinton Boyer is going to get a little bit upset with me and actually try and spin me out, so I'm going to lose a lot of ground because of that. I'm actually going to cheat just a little bit here and skip the ramp. You know, it's kind of an important aspect of this track, but I kind of figured don't have to deal with that as Clinton Boyer then pays for his sins by doing a somersault through the air. Shame on that guy. Coming to the line for the final time, it's going to be myself, Almirola, and then Kurt Busch. He's actually going to have a head of momentum coming up here, so it's going to be side-by-side drag race to the line. We're actually going to beat him by virtue of effectively blocking his path, so he had to push us across the line ahead of him. Moving on to the points after this event, you can see that Brad Keselowski actually picks up his 2nd event win of the season, becoming the first and only driver so far to have more than 1 event win so far this season, taking first place back in the points from myself. We have definitely made this a 2-horse battle for the top of the leaderboards with only 3 events left to go in the season. It does seem pretty likely that it's going to be myself and Brad Keselowski duking it out for the championship over the last 3 events, but you never know. Chase Elliott could probably try and make his way back through the field, but it's going to take a lot of misfortune on the side of both myself and Brad Keselowski for that to really be possible. But anyways, that's all I have for you guys in this video. If you did enjoy and you've made it this far, please consider leaving a like and subscribing if you're new so you don't miss out on any future content. But until then, I will see you all in the next one.